Welcome to PyPod Chronicles, a series that brings our tech blog to life in a whole new way. Covering an array of topics surrounding Python and tech, from programming tips, best practices, and so much more. Let's get immersed in Python with the Nerd Nook on the go. If you've been keeping up with the blog, then you already know me. I'm Rusty Raccoon. But if you're new here, no, I'm Josh, your host. Here we are in episode 5, and I gave this one the title of Understanding Class Inheritance and Superclasses, because in the last episode, we looked at object-oriented programming, and we talked about creating classes, and we touched on the idea of inheritance. In this episode, we're going to dive a little bit more into inheritance. If you're not familiar with these terms, don't worry, because you're not alone. Even seasoned developers sometimes have trouble wrapping their heads around this concept. But in this episode, I'm going to break it down for you, and I'm going to shed some light on this. First, let's define what I mean by class inheritance. Simply put, it's a way for one class to inherit all the attributes and methods of another class. So think of it like a family tree. You have your parents, who have certain traits and characteristics. You inherit some of those traits and characteristics from them, but you also have your own unique traits and characteristics. When you create a new class that inherits from an existing class, it can access and use the attributes and the methods of the parent class, the superclass. So imagine you have a superclass, a parent class called animal. Inside animal, it has a property of name and species. It has one method called make sound, and it prints a generic animal sound. Then I make another class called dog. Dog is a type of animal. So dog is going to inherit the animal class, and it's going to get the properties name, species, as well as the method make sound. But a dog also has its own unique properties. Inside here, I could create a new property called self.breed, and I could insert the breed of dog. I could also create a new method for the dog, and I could say make sound, but this time I could print wolf. Now, you might be wondering why anyone would bother with all this inheritance stuff. Can't you just create a new class from scratch? Well, absolutely, you can, and you could. But inheritance can save you a lot of time and effort. Imagine that you have a bunch of classes that all have similar attributes and methods. Instead of duplicating your code over and over again, you could create a parent class that contains all those shared attributes and methods. Then you have other classes inherit and pull from the parent class. It's like copying and paste, but way more organized. Not only can you inherit one class, but you could also inherit multiple classes. This concept is called multiple class inheritance, and it's like having more than one set of parents. Just like how you might inherit your mother's eyes and your father's nose, your class can inherit attributes and methods from multiple parent classes. Finally, let's touch on the concept of superclasses. When you inherit from a parent class, you can use the super function to call the methods from the parent class. I like the term parent class when I'm teaching and in my courses. Really, parent class, I just mean the superclass, the main class that we're giving to other child classes. Think of the super function as like a hotline to your parents. You can ask them for advice and they'll give you the answers you need. But be careful not to abuse this power, or your parents might get tired of that constant nagging phone calls. The family metaphor doesn't end there. Just like how some families have dysfunctional dynamics, inheritance can lead to some sticky situations. Be careful, guys. For example, ask yourself, what happens when two parent classes have a method with the same name? Who gets priority? It's like when your parents disagree on how to discipline you. You're stuck in the middle. Well, fear not, because in Python, you have something called MRO, Method Resolution Order. This helps determine which parent class takes precedence. Another question to ask yourself is, can one of your parents change something about themselves, like their eye color? Will you automatically inherit that change? Well, it depends on whether the attribute or method is overridden in the child class. If it is, then the child class has its own version of the attribute and method, and the changes to the parent class won't actually affect it. It's like if you dye your hair color a different color. Your children aren't going to get the same color. That's ridiculous. One last thing to note here in this episode is about inheritance in superclasses is it's just like real life. You can't inherit everything. Some attributes and methods are marked private with a special double underscore prefix. And these can't be accessed or inherited outside of the class that they belong to. So it's like having a secret family recipe of like grandma's favorite apple pie that only you and your parents know about. You can't just give it away. Okay, so those private double underscore methods, they cannot be inherited. Let's wrap this episode up. I talked a bit more about inheritance and superclasses, which you should go and try and implement your own ideas and create your own class. Remember the super function. Inheritance and superclasses can be a powerful tool for organizing your code and saving time. But just like in a real family, there can be some drama and sticky situations to navigate. So remember to use the super function wisely and watch out for any methods that might conflict each other. That's all for now. Thanks guys for tuning in for this episode of PyPod Chronicles. And if you're looking for more, as always, check out the blog because the link is in the description. Well, until next time, I'll see you guys in the next episode.